Hello, nerds! Nerds for Humanity. We have quite a live stream ready for you tonight. We're going to go over the 10 reasons. And these are going to be with video clips. Each of them will be with video clips, so it will be an entertaining watch, hopefully, on why voting for Trump is crazy. And I know a lot of you out there might be like, well, I don't like Kamala. I want more details from her plans. You know, Tim Walz, I don't know. I don't like the way he claps. It's like, guys, look at who our alternative is. And now you all know I was never a big Biden fan. And I was kind of lukewarm on Kamala. But two things. One is that Kamala has really beat a lot of expectations in terms of how she handled the launch of her campaign, the selection of her running mate, her first interview, and then the 70 million person live debate, and then her second interview that she just did today. So she's legit. But even if you're like, oh, I don't know, she's not my first choice, I get it. Are you telling me that Trump is a higher choice? For real? For real life? And if you're still unsure, let's go back down memory lane. So we're going to do the top 10 reasons. And we're going to start with the biggest one. And that is that Mofo refused to concede after he lost. And somehow, like, MAGA people think that Hillary never conceded. She conceded, like, that night. But this is what our boy Trump was saying.
Losing is never easy. Not for me, it's not.
And there it is. The first polls have closed. Counting is now well underway.
The Fox News decision desk is calling Arizona for Joe Biden. That is a big get.
This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
Okay.
This is an extremely flammable situation, and the president just threw a match into it.
Some of the most irresponsible comments that a president of the United States has ever made. He has cast doubt on the integrity of the entire electoral process purely for his own personal advantage.
For the president to say, we want all voting to stop, that's what he said. We don't want them finding ballots in the middle of the night, 4 a.m., and then counting them. That's what happens on election night.
The Trump campaign filed a lawsuit to stop the counting of ballots in Pennsylvania. That is simply wrong.
Today, the president was still out of sight, calling supporters and tweeting furiously, Twitter slapping warning labels on many of his tweets.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. If you count the votes.
Okay, here we are again in the unusual position of not only interrupting the President of the United States, but correcting the President of the United States. There are no illegal votes that we know of. There has been no Trump victory that we know of.
CNN projects Joseph R. Biden Jr. is elected the 46th president of the United States, winning the White House and denying President Trump a second term.
The only glimpses we've seen of Donald Trump since Joe Biden was projected president-elect came over the weekend at his golf course. He is still not willing to accept defeat, fighting his battle in court and on Twitter.
It's important for the cause of democracy and freedom that we don't allege fraud and theft and so forth unless there's very clear evidence of that. And at this stage, that evidence hasn't been produced.
We are still yet to hear from President Trump in person. All we are getting at the moment is a series of angry tweets, many of those written in capitals. However, only recently he tweeted that actually the lamestream media, as he called it, was somehow responsible for calling this election
That's
early.
November 9th,
Unfortunately,
guys.
he does nothing with grace or dignity or any semblance of class.
President Trump fired his defense secretary today. No lame duck president has ever done such a thing. Mark Esper and President Trump have long been at odds. The president Twitter fired him.
Fox News can confirm that Attorney General Bill Barr will instruct the Department of Justice to probe, quote, substantial allegations of voting irregularities.
What substantial allegations? If they've seen any, why can't they share? Or is this more proof of why Trump not only lost, but was impeached for abusing the power that you gave him?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. Right, we're ready. We must count every legal vote. We must make sure that any vote that wasn't lawful ought not be counted. That dilutes your vote.
Sir, what do you say to the Americans that are anxious over the fact that President Trump has yet to concede and what that might mean for the country?
I just think it's an embarrassment.
Okay. So let's remember what we just saw. We had a president who was in office and lost and refuses to concede. I mean, even this week at the debate, he refused to concede, saying, oh, he was being sarcastic when he said he lost. So there are people out there like, there's someone in the live chat saying, hey, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Any liberal with half a brain knows they need to vote Trump to avoid the totalitarianism we currently live under. What totalitarianism are we living under now? I don't sense. If anything, any liberal with half a brain knows that Trump tried to overturn. You want to talk about totalitarianism? Refusing to leave office when you've been voted out in a democratic process is totalitarianism. If it's not, it's despotism, but it's not a good ism. So number one reason all of us have to not only vote against Trump, but get all of our friends and family to turn out is that this man needs to be defeated again. And when he loses, it needs to be clear. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Kinsey is saying, oh, he didn't refuse to leave. Biden cheated. Well, you know, he had 60 court cases, including some where he had standing, including at least one where a judge he appointed said that his case had no evidence and no merits. So I know what people are saying on Twitter or Truth Social or 4chan, but this is a country that operates under an independent judicial system, and you got to be able to bring evidence in front of a judge and have that evidence stand up to cross-examination. Okay, now let's see. Kinsey is saying, hey, all of those cases were thrown out. Okay, let me see. Hold on one second. I'm gonna pull it up. What court cases that Trump used to challenge election were not thrown out due to standing? I think the judge's name was Ludwig. Okay, yeah. Trump versus Wisconsin Elections Commission. Let's see. I know this is like slowing us down, but I feel like there's so much misinformation about this that we have to just call this out because Trump told his people that none of his cases saw any evidence. They were all thrown out for standing. And here we have the case summary of Trump versus Wisconsin that was brought in filed on December 2nd of 2020. Plaintiff Donald Trump alleges that defendants, local government officials undermined the election, alleges defendants ignored limits on the availability of mail-in balloting, created ballot drop boxes, did not provide access to poll observers, eliminated state laws requiring that voters provide information, alleged conduct violates elections and electors clause. As remedy, plaintiff requests that the result of the Wisconsin election be remanded to the Wisconsin state legislature. This was in the 7th Circuit of the federal court. The court found that it had jurisdiction to resolve plaintiff's claims, so they did not say that he didn't have standing, right? And the court then held on the merits that the plaintiff failed to prove that Wisconsin election violated his rights. It showed that the record that Wisconsin's presidential electors were determined in the very manner directed by the legislature as required by Article 2, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution. With respect to the plaintiff's complaints about WEC guidance on indefinitely confined voters, drop boxes, and corrections to witness addresses, to the manner of Wisconsin's appointment of presidential electors, but rather disagreements over election administration. Defendant, in fact, conducted the election in the manner directed by the legislature in accordance with the electors' clause. Then it was appealed on 12/12. Order ruling: the 7th Circuit panel rejects appellant's claim and upheld Wisconsin's election results. The circuit upheld the district court's ruling that there was no violation of the electors' clause, agreeing that Wisconsin lawfully appointed its electors. The court further commented that the president's claim also fails because of the unreasonable delay in bringing suit. Then on December 30th, there was another petition. The court denied petition's motion to expedite consideration. So if you had all this evidence in Wisconsin, like, what happened to it? Where was it? Because you lost. That wasn't because of standing. So anybody that tells you, like, oh, every single court case that Trump tried to bring up, it was always thrown out. It's not true. It is not true. I could go through other ones, but I don't want to turn this live stream into, oh, who really won the election? Like, look, if you believe that all 60 cases were thrown out and he lost, including by Trump-appointed judges, and you also believe that states like Georgia that are run by Republicans were in on it for Biden, you know, we're just going to have to disagree on the logic that you're applying. And if there's all of this evidence, why doesn't it hold up in court? And if the election was really stolen, wouldn't he be bringing out that evidence and providing all of that to the public in written documentation and opening themselves up to cross-examination? Because we know from the call with Raffensperger in Georgia, when Raffensperger said, look, I have information that will show you that your allegations in Georgia are not true, Trump literally said, I don't need to see your evidence. I have my own evidence. So reason number one is that trying to overturn an election is kind of a big deal for the greatest democracy in the world, for a country that was founded on trying to reject a king. We don't want to trade one king for an orange king. We're talking about pressuring election officials, spreading false claims about fraud. Clearly, a lot of people have heard his false claims and still believe it to this day. And then filing a barrage of baseless lawsuits, including many that resulted in Fox News agreeing to pay $1 billion to Dominion. Why do you think Fox News? Can someone in the MAGA cinematic universe explain this to me? Why would Fox News pay $1 billion to Dominion and the only thing that Fox News did was tell the truth? And why would Rudy Giuliani be found guilty of defamation of those two Georgia election workers, Ruby and her daughter, right? The whole suitcase thing. So, no matter what side you're on politically, the integrity of the democratic system and the peaceful transfer of power is kind of like non-negotiable. It's not kind of, it is non-negotiable. Let's be real here. If Biden was running for re-election and he lost, and all the states certified their results, and he said, you know what, Kamala, why don't you reject those results because we think there's fraud, and then they got 60 court cases and they lost all of them, you tell me that MAGA world would be okay with that? For real life? Number two. Now, let's say that you are like, no, Tom. It was really stolen. It was really stolen. I can't vote for Harris. I'm still with Trump. I believe in my heart of hearts that the election was indeed stolen. So he's okay for starting an insurrection and telling his supporters to march on the Capitol and to fight like hell, or they're not going to have a country anymore. Remember, that's what he said. Let's just say you're okay with that. Well, how about this? I have another video for you. Like I promised, every reason is going to be accompanied by a video that we will now show. Hold on. Present. Share screen.
54 years they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it, and I'm proud to have done it. They wanted to get it back, right? You wouldn't have that. There would be no question. Nobody else was going to get that done but me. Yep. And we did it, and we did something that was a miracle.
Wait, hold on a second. I don't want to this to be drawn out into like a never-ending debate. But Kinsey Sensei is saying, you're pretending that Trump didn't leave office. What world do you live in? Kinsey, are you telling me that you saw him concede and leave on his own volition? Really? Did you not see what he did on January 6th? Did he even go to the inauguration? I think he's like the first president. When the hell? Let's find out. When was the last U.S. president who lost their re-election and didn't attend the inauguration of the victor. Okay, the last one was at the previous instance was 1869 when Andrew Johnson, who didn't even seek re-election because he lost his party's nomination, refused to attend Ulysses Grant's inauguration. So since 18, and so even you might even want to give Johnson a little bit of latitude because, hey, he didn't get the nomination of his party. I think he still should have attended the inauguration. But that's kind of like a DICK move, right? You lose and you don't even concede. You don't go to the inauguration. You keep telling all of your followers that the system's rigged. Guys, but let's not make the whole live stream about Jan 6. If you believe that a woman should have a right to decide if she wants to take a pregnancy to term and have children and take on the responsibility of raising that child and supporting that child, then this is not your guy, right? This is a guy that is proud of overturning Roe v. Wade. This is the question.
Nobody else was going to get that done but me.
Yeah.
And we did it.
He celebrates it.
Appreciate it too. You wouldn't be asking that question, even talking about the issue, because for 54 years they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it, and I'm proud to have done it. They wanted to get it back, right? You wouldn't have that. There would be no question. Nobody else was going to get that done but me.
Yeah.
And we did it.
He celebrates
and we did
it.
something that was a miracle. When I walked onto the stage today, a gentleman in the back, probably works for Fox, nice guy, said, "Sir, I'd like to thank you." I said, "For what?" He said, "You saved 2 million lives in the last..."
So let's be clear. This dude called taking away tens of millions of women's rights to determine their own reproductive destiny. He called taking away someone's rights a miracle. And then now he says, "Oh, I saved millions of lives." It's like, do you care? Are you going to help support those babies after they're born, or you're just going to quote unquote protect them while they're in the womb and then ignore them after? So if you are a woman, you have daughters, you have sisters, you have friends and family who are women, nieces, and you want them to have the freedom to choose if they're going to have kids or not, this is not your guy. This is a guy. Now, what's worse about Trump is that he doesn't even believe it. Does anybody here really think that he's pro-life? Really? A New York City Democrat goes to Hillary Clinton's wedding, is on his third wife, pays off porn stars. You really think this guy's pro-life? Come on now. So not only does he take away other people's rights, but he himself probably either appreciates the ability in some states for people to have abortions, or might even have, who knows what has happened in his past, right? We won't speculate about that. But maybe he's thinking, hey, I've got money. If anyone in my family needed to get an abortion and they were in a state where it wasn't legal, I'll just put them on the Trump plane and fly them to a state where it's still possible. But not everyone can do that.
3 years, you saved 2 million lives. And I said, "Thank you very much." I knew exactly what he meant. 2 million lives. And nobody's done more in that regard than me. Now, I happen to be for the exceptions, like Ronald Reagan with the life of the mother, rape, incest. I just have to be there. I think probably 78% or so, Paul, about 78%. It was Ronald Reagan. He was for it. I was for it. But I will say this. You have to win elections. Otherwise, you're going to be back where you were. And you can't let that ever happen.
Okay. So then, on this abortion topic, this is the same guy that was asked at the debate whether or not because he says here, like, hey, look, now it's entirely up to the states, right? So if it's entirely up to the states, then if Congress presented you with a bill to ban abortions, you as a president should veto it, right? Because it's a states thing. You keep saying should be a states decision. The states should decide. So then a federal ban on abortions is clearly off the table. Well, let's see what he said. I mean, this guy is such a piece of work. It's so gross. All right,
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current.
Now, remember, he was asked if he were president and a national abortion ban arrived at his desk, would you sign it or would you veto it? I see there's questions for me in the chat. Thank you. Whatever is clever, I will answer that in a minute. But let me just play the rest of this deplorable man's answer.
Current governor is doing an excellent job. But the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's
So would you sign it or would you veto it? Just answer.
Execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time...
Okay, so if you're making such an argument that everything should be put down to the states, then clearly you have to be against a federal ban. You can't say, hey, this is a state's issue, but if it comes, a federal ban arrives at my desk, I will sign it. Then it's not a state's issue. So is it a state's issue or isn't it?
You're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people.
So then you would veto a federal ban or not? Dude, just answer the question.
People now, it's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended.
Okay, we're going to skip to Trump. Harris gives a good answer, but I want to hear more from Trump.
There are abortion bans, which make...
Because we know Harris is pro-choice.
Harris...
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to.
So, guys, did you hear what he said? He said everybody wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. This is his warped view of the world. In his mind, he did all of us a favor by appointing judges that would overturn settled law, Roe v. Wade. That's what he thinks. So, 2 things. Either 1, he's lying, and he knows that half the country, more than half the country, was fine with Roe v. Wade, didn't want it overturned. Or 2, he's confused, and he's deluded to think that everybody wanted this thrown back to the states. You either want the liar or the man in serious cognitive decline.
To be brought back into the states, and the states are voting, and it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states, and I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie, and as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to because, again, 2 things. Number 1, she said...
National abortion...
Would you or wouldn't you?
Because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to because, again, 2 things. Number 1, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50... and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe.
Okay.
The student.
If anybody heard him answer clearly on whether he would veto, I think the closest we heard him say is, well, I won't have to, so I guess I won't answer. I mean, imagine that. Let's just take a thought experiment for a second, nerds. If I said to my son, hey, listen, buddy, when you're going out with your friends tonight, make sure that you don't vandalize any property. Okay, you're not going to vandalize any property, are you? And if my son said to me, Dad, I don't need to tell you if I'm going to do that or not because that situation won't happen. It won't arise. I would be like, yeah, but if it did, you're not going to commit any vandalism, are you? And if he said, why are you asking me this? It's not going to come up. You know what I would say to my son? I would say, like, get your ass inside right now. Get your ass inside. Donald Trump, you need to get your ass back to Florida. Okay. So that's reason number 2. There were some questions in the chat. Let me see if I can hit those. I think we've got some Trump supporters in the live chat. So welcome. Welcome to the Nerd Zone. I know I'm kind of hating on your guy, but I do want to hear from time to time your objections. and I'll try to answer. I can't answer them all. So if you have the whole MAGA like posse come, like I won't be able to answer every chat, but I do want to address some of them. What's my cutoff? I think we're talking about abortion. You know what? My view on abortion is it's none of my business. And so my cutoff is whatever the woman and her doctor decide, and mainly the woman, because if the woman has the baby, I'm not taking care of that baby. That is not my responsibility. It's her responsibility. So if it's her responsibility to care for the baby, then it should be her responsibility and decision if she wants to carry that pregnancy to term. So I am fine with whatever families and women decide is right for them and their family. Then whatever is clever said, hey, what's your favorite Kamala policy? There's a few. One is a commitment to the peaceful transfer of power. Two is a commitment to maintaining and improving the Affordable Care Act. I'm a big believer in reforming healthcare and addressing chronic disease, which, by the way, Trump said he was going to make it a priority when he got RFK to endorse him. And then he was asked about his healthcare plan, and I think his answer was, I'm working on concepts for a plan which I will reveal to you in a period of time. I mean, guys, not to be unfair to my children, but if my teenage son said to me, if I asked him, hey, Ryan, what's the story with signing up for the SAT? When are you going to take it? And he said to me, well, Dad, I have a concept for a plan to sign up for the SAT, which I will reveal to you in the not too distant future. I would be like, boy, you better get in that house right now. And you better sign up for that freaking test. And you need to start opening the books and putting in the work. But somehow, if you're running for president and you freaking have been president and you promised everyone better repeal and replace. Remember the replace? And he said, you're going to have better health care and it's going to be cheaper. Better and cheaper. Who here? He was president for 4 years. Do you see anything that under Trump became better and cheaper around healthcare? I don't think so. I mean, maybe I don't think giving people free medical advice and telling them to inject bleach counts as healthcare. But you asked my favorite Kamala policy. So 1, peaceful transfer of power, commitment to true peaceful transfer of power. I mean, it's sad that we have to make that a difference. You would think all candidates would be for that. I think Trump said that he'll agree to the results if he wins. It's kind of like heads I win, tails you cheated. Second policy, continued investment in the Affordable Care Act. Third would be no more tax cuts for billionaires and the ultra rich. By the way, like, I'm not speaking because this necessarily benefits me. I benefited greatly from the Trump tax cuts, but I didn't need them. And most of the people that got those benefits, like, we didn't ask for it. But, you know, whatever. If I guess he wants to give me tax cuts, that's fine. And then the other Kamala policies are continued investments in renewable energy. I'm a big believer in a lot of what was in the Inflation Reduction Act. And then maybe the last policy that I like about hers is also supporting Ukraine. I really don't think Russia should be able to invade other countries, and America should just ignore pleas from that invaded country for defensive weaponry. So those are some. I also think that she would take a harder line against Netanyahu and force him to negotiate a ceasefire. We've been bombing, well, Netanyahu has been bombing Gaza with American bombs for a year now, guys. It's 11 months of continuous bombing in a land that's like the size of Washington, D.C. Like, if you haven't gotten it done by now, Bibi, like, that's it. Like, this is not a forever war. So anyway, those are my favorite Kamala policies. It's interesting. I get that question from my MAGA family a lot. I think there's like some belief that, oh, everyone who supports Kamala doesn't even know why. It's like, no, we know why. We like the direction that Biden was going. We thought he was too old. So thank God he stepped down. And now Kamala's the new nominee. And we would like to see more of supporting the middle class, supporting healthcare reform, supporting NATO, supporting peaceful transfers of power, democracy, you know, the basics. And the other guy doesn't support them. Okay. I think I'm going to... Okay, I'll take a few more chats, and then we're only at reason number 2. We haven't gotten to reason number 3 yet. So let me know in the chat. Do you want me to just power through my reasons, or do you want me to respond to any chats? Okay. Patrick says, hey, Patrick, what are your thoughts on Attorney General endorsing Kamala, Dick, and Liz Cheney too? My belief is that, you know, the Republican nominee is a real piece of work when Dick Cheney, the Darth Vader of Republicans, is not going to endorse him. Liz Cheney, one of the most conservative members of Congress there ever was, is not supporting him. When George W. Bush's Attorney General is not supporting him. When pretty much none of his cabinet, anyone of senior levels who's worked for him, most of them are not endorsing him. Why is that? Is that because he was so awesome? Now he'll say, oh, that's because I fired them. He didn't fire them all, guys. Come on. And he also hires the best people. So if they're the best people and they're not supporting him, like, maybe the problem is with him. Okay. A lot of action in the chats. I'm gonna let you all chat it up while I go to reason number 3. Okay. Reason number 3. Oh, God, this piece of work. Yes. Remember, we had a bipartisan border security deal. This man who talks every day about the border and the pouring in and the wall and all this stuff. And we had a bill that was negotiated by a Republican, an independent, Kristen Sinema from Arizona, border state independent, and one Democrat. The three of them finally got something that was basically a conservative wish list. And let me summarize for you guys. What were the key elements to the 2024 bipartisan border deal that Trump blocked? There were 1,500 additional border security agents. Let's see. It would have given the president the authority to close the U.S.-Mexico border entirely if daily crossings exceeded specific thresholds. And it included additional border enforcement and tightened border security, Republicans initially supported the deal, and then Trump-aligned Republicans objected, arguing it didn't go far enough. You know what? If you're telling me, hey, Patrick Dunn says super chat. I'm doing some angel investment, Patrick. Not a VC, doing some small like syndicate investments. But I think you are doing a round, so happy to talk a little more and catch up about it. At a minimum, I can give you some advice for what it's worth. So if your house is on fire and you're like, gosh darn it, nobody's doing anything to put out this fire. And then you're like, this fire department is BS. They're not doing anything. And then the fire department comes over and they say, look, we've got an agreement. We're going to put one fire engine on this. Is your answer, oh, no. No. I want two. You're not doing enough. So turn around and go back to the fire station. That is what basically happened. To say like this doesn't do enough, so we're going to do nothing is just absurd. And that's exactly what Donald J. Trump told his MAGA friends in Congress to do.
The so-called border security deal Biden is gushing out and pushing out is not to stop illegal immigration. It's designed to continue the invasion of America while sending billions of dollars to Ukraine and other countries. And Ukraine's an interesting case. People always want to know my feeling. Number one, we're in for 200 billion plus, and the European nations are in for 20 billion. And it's more important for them. And don't you think they should equalize? Nobody asks them. It's like I did with NATO. I said, we're paying for NATO, and we don't get so much out of it. And I hate to tell you this about NATO. If we ever needed their help, let's say we were attacked, I don't believe they'd be there. I don't believe. I know the people. I know them. I can tell you country by country who would be there and who, but I don't believe they'd be there. But I took care of NATO. I said, you got to pay your bills. If you don't pay your bills, we're not going to be there to support you. And the following day, the money came rolling into NATO. But the European nations, if you add them up, the economy is about the same size as the U.S., believe it or not. A lot of people are surprised. You add them all up, and they are in for about $20 billion, and we're in for $200 billion because we're stupid. All we have to do is say pay. Nobody ever says to them.
Okay, so this is not him supporting that border deal, clearly. Some people are like, hey, this is an amnesty bill. Well, let's see what was in the bill. 15, this is, by the way, supported by Republicans in the Senate. Not just Democrats, Republicans. 1,500 new customs and border protection personnel. 4,300 new asylum officers to expedite the asylum decisions. Increased detention beds to 50,000. Funding for an additional 100 immigration judges and staff. 100 inspection machines to detect fentanyl. $1.4 billion for cities and states providing critical services to expedite work permits. So this idea that like, oh, no, we think the border is in a crisis, so adding more border security equipment, adding a streamlined decision-making process for people who are frankly applying for asylum and are not going to get it, so let's make that decision faster. Somehow that's an amnesty bill. And if this is such a crisis, again, it's like telling the fire department, oh, you know what? I wanted 3 fire engines and you only brought 1. So please turn around and let the house continue burning. So that's reason number 3, blocking the 2024 bipartisan border deal. We had a chance to get something done on immigration, which if you hear Trump, that's the only thing he talks about. It would have improved border security, addressed humanitarian concerns, but Trump blocked it. Why? Why did he block it? Because he wanted to campaign on it, and he didn't want to compromise. And when both parties are willing to work together and finally get something that both Republicans and Democrats in the Congress can agree on, blocking that progress hurts all of us. I mean, this guy is so dangerous, and he wasn't even the president, and he's already gumming up the system. So tell me why we want this man back in the White House. Now, let's say you're like, Tom, I've heard you make your case. I still believe that the Venezuelans and George Soros and Hugo Chavez, and Dominion, who was paid $1 billion by Fox News for what? They're all in it. So, number one, Trump trying to overturn the results was totally okay with you. And let's also say, hey, I am fine with women not being able to choose if they are allowed to end their pregnancy. And that's fine with me. Let's say you believe that. Obviously, you and I disagree. And let's say also that, I'm okay with defunding the border, which is what Trump did by blocking this bill. There was going to be more money going to the border, and he was against it. So let's say all of those things. You're like, yeah, there were things in that border deal I didn't like. I didn't want any money going to Ukraine. Okay, whatever. Let's just grant you that. I would strongly disagree with you, but there's still another reason not to support Trump. And that would be his denial and chaotic management of a national crisis called COVID. Let's not forget how he handled COVID-19. From the very beginning, he was saying, thank you, Xi Jinping. I love you, China. You've done such great things. Why? Because he just was trying to parade around his trade deal with China, right, where he was going to give them all the computer chips. And he said, thank you, Xi Jinping. I love you. You're so great. He said the virus, only a few people have it on one little cruise ship. Remember, he said that. And then he contradicted his own health experts, gave completely convoluted, mixed messages to the public when we were all freaking out and seeing morgues fill up. And at that time, I actually worked in the healthcare industry, or worked in the tech industry for healthcare. And I will tell you, there were hospitals that were redirecting patients to other hospitals because they could not handle all of the critically sick and severely ill people that were surging and dying in their ICUs. So there's no doubt that we lost thousands of lives, maybe tens of thousands, probably more. We needed leadership and we got chaos. And you expect a president to rise to the occasion. And some people say, COVID was just the flu. Let's look at the number of deaths per year. Deaths per year in the USA deaths and mortality. See if I can find a chart for you guys. Okay. Guys, look at this. Look at the data. This is not the flu. The flu doesn't do this. You don't go from 2.85 million deaths in 2019 to 3.4 million and then 3.5 million just because there was a little bit of flu going around, okay? And if you're like, oh, we have to wear masks, like wearing masks does not increase people's deaths by 1 million. So you guys look at the chart, man. If you think it's just the flu, like, why did all these people die? And people are like, oh, they didn't die of COVID. They died with COVID. Well, then why did so many die compared to the previous year? This is your guy. He was running the show. I don't need to remind you what this person was saying.
Which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. Hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting.
Supposing you shine a light.
It knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
No, it's not interesting. Not interesting. What he's trying to do is downplay the seriousness of the pandemic and give people false hope that, oh, don't worry, you'll just inject yourself with bleach. And then it became, no, there's a miracle drug, hydroxychloroquine, that'll knock it out. And then he himself got it and had to get helicoptered into the hospital because of it was just the flu. If it's just the flu, why is your boy getting helicoptered into a hospital? Practically put out on a stretcher. Okay, so that's the fourth reason. By the way, if you are enjoying this, can you do me a solid? Can you like and share? Because as you can tell, this is taking me a long time. It's almost an hour. And I'm getting freaking worked up because I got the MAGA contingent in the live chat. I love you, MAGA folks. I love you. I appreciate you. I have, as many of you know, I have many MAGA family members. So I am very accustomed to your worldview and your sources of information, which are, they never cease to amaze me. But at any rate, so as a recap, tried to overturn the election, did overturn the federal right of a woman to choose to get an abortion if she wanted to, overturned that, blocked a bipartisan border deal, bipartisan, co-written by Republicans. Number 4, denied the severity of the COVID-19 pandemic and ran around acting like nothing was going on and almost got himself killed, had to have experimental treatment. So if that's not enough, like, do you want like a fifth reason? This is for dramatic effect. As you know, the title of this stream is 10 reasons. So yes, I will give you a fifth reason. Patrick, another super chat, dude. I love it. Hold on a second. Love the super chats. I talked to Peter, my MAGA brother in Florida. Man, he's a Florida man. At least once a day over chat. And he is very mad at me because he feels that there was a coup and that, what is it that he keeps telling me? That Joe Biden got 14 million votes and Kamala didn't get any. And this is terrible and it's a tragedy. And I told Peter and all my MAGA family, why the hell do you care how the Democratic Party, which is not some federal institution, it's not any kind of government institution, it's a private political party. They can pick their nominee any gosh darn way they want to. And by the way, Peter and all my MAGA friends and family were telling me long before that, oh, you're Joe Biden, ha ha ha, cognitive decline, which I agreed with. As many of you know, I campaigned against Joe Biden in the primaries. So Peter's very angry that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are the new ticket. And he wishes that Joe Biden was still the Democratic nominee. But, you know, there you go. So that's Peter's deal. So, okay, we're going to give you the fifth reason. I will let you watch this video. I won't even give you a preface to it because it's really interesting.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me, they didn't put themselves down as neo-Nazis. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. No, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now, we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history. You're changing culture.
By the way, Robert E. Lee was a major leader in the Confederacy. I don't think George Washington fought in the Civil War. I don't think he was alive. I don't think Thomas Jefferson was alive during the Civil War. So I don't understand why he's equating Robert E. Lee with George Washington. But if you guys have forgotten, Charlottesville was a pretty nasty operation, pretty anti-Semitic, and let's just take a little trip down memory lane, but because many of us have done a memory block.
Hundreds of white nationalists.
I guess this is fine people.
Storming the University of Virginia, protesting plans to remove a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. The overnight violence spilling into this morning when marchgoers and counter-protesters clash again, hours before the Unite to Right march was even set to begin. Just after 10:30 a.m., the crowd growing in size. Local and state police in riot gear responding in force, but the violence escalating. Just before noon, Virginia's governor declaring a state of emergency. Just before 2 p.m., the situation taking that deadly turn.
You can see the silver 2010 Dodge Challenger barreling down the hill toward a sea of targets with little time to react, slamming to a stop only after it hit a van and another car. Locked in, That car shifting in reverse, screeching back down the street to get away. One person, a 32-year-old woman, left dead. 19 more rushed to the hospital, 5 in critical condition. The suspected driver, 20-year-old James Alex Fields Jr., is behind bars.
The first response from the White House came not from the president, but the First Lady. She tweeted, "Our country encourages freedom of speech, but let's communicate without hate in our hearts."
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides.
Senator Ted Cruz put out his own statement calling the attack a grotesque act of domestic terrorism. Senator John McCain tweeted, "White supremacists aren't patriots, they're traitors."
Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers. I think if we continue to create jobs at levels that I'm creating jobs, I think that's going to have a tremendously positive impact on race relations. I do.
All right. Look, man, when people are marching with torches around a Confederate general's statue and saying Jews will not replace us, your first answer should be like, that is completely unacceptable. It is grotesque, and there's no place for that in modern America. Your answer shouldn't be, well, you know, there's good people on all sides. Because it just, why are you even making it gray? It's clear that, well, it's clear to me that that was not an advocacy for unification or diversity or acceptance. That was people marching in support of a Confederate general who led an insurrection against the United States government in defense of the right to own other humans. To me, like, that's not a gray area. Okay, so that's number 5. You guys ready for number 6? I'm going to go to number 6. But first, I'm going to give shout outs to our channel members. So if you're watching on YouTube and you're like, you know what? I like this Nerds for Humanity. I want this channel to keep producing content like this. You can help me pay for our streaming software, our podcast hosting fees, our camera, lighting, thumbnail editing softwares, all these free. You would be surprised. Like, there's costs to run this little dinky Nerds channel. But we exist partly because of support from our channel members. And our biggest channel member is Soldier One. He is a member of the Nerds for Humanity cabinet. Then we have the Nerd Congress, Kristen Bike and Zig PC. Thank you, Kristen Bike and Zig PC. Then the next level down is the Nerd City Council. Gene, David, DK, Jackalego, Mr. History, Mona, Vaughn, Yang, Dean, Galessa, Jay Perrin, Dana, Jason, Daniel, Jeremy, Mickey, Yoda, Jackson, Unkiyu. And then we have, for $1.99 a month, cancel anytime, are registered nerds. I'll scroll through these. They're all amazing. There's a number of them. They keep this thing running. So thank you, nerds. All right, you ready for number 5? We just did number 5. Number 6. This guy, man. Let's play the video.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Okay. You know, the sad thing about Trump is that he takes issues that actually, like, there's some legitimate concern there, which is that the influx of immigration in certain areas, I think it's like 20,000 into a small town or small city, like it can dramatically strain the resources. It also has to do with our current immigration law. And he could have said, look, we need to change our immigration laws so that we don't have massive amounts of asylum applications that we know are going to get rejected, and then people get into the country and they never show up for their court date. Like, that is a problem. Another problem is like the strain on local resources in terms of public education, public transportation, healthcare. Like, those are legitimate things. So a reasonable conservative candidate could say, therefore, we need to make some changes. But instead, he says they're coming for your dogs, they're coming for your cats, protect your parakeets, put your gerbils in a safe room, right? Effectively. And then he looks like a clown, and people laugh at him. Or 55% of the country laughs at him, and the other 45% believes wholeheartedly that he's speaking truth. Now, this takes me on a little bit of a tangent. We're talking about immigration. I have the Nerds for Humanity immigration plan. I would like to share it with you because I don't think Donald Trump and maybe not even Kamala Harris would support it. But in the spirit of like, hey guys, let's just be problem solvers, here's what I would want to see. One is I would like to see more investment in border security and enforcement of our immigration laws, including increased barriers in high traffic areas, drones, sensors, surveillance technology, increased staffing for border protection. Like, you have to do that. Now, the reason why we aren't doing it is because he made this issue so toxic that no Democrat wants to support anything he proposes. This is another issue with having him back in the White House. Nothing will get done because you call it what you want. You may say, if you're MAGA, oh, that's TDS. I would say he purposely alienates and polarizes people so that no one will want to work with him other than his own crew. But I would support more border security. I would support withholding foreign aid to Mexico and Central American nations who do not work with us on border management. I would also massively introduce asylum applications from your own home country. You do not have to come in to apply for asylum. I would have that asylum rapidly adjudicated so we could figure out what the decision is, so you don't have to wait in the country for your decision. And if the cases are denied, then you would be deported. Or if you applied from home, you would be blocked from entering. then I would actually increase immigration based on merit-based visas. And any company that's saying, hey, we need to hire these incredible talents, often they're highly educated in U.S. Research universities, I would say, great. You can get a visa to bring in that high talent immigrant. You will also need to pay a tax on hiring people from outside, and part of that, a tariff, if you want, on importing foreign talent. But then that money would go back into investing in U.S. workforce development, trade schools, student loans, grants, those kinds of things, investing in American high schools. I would also introduce a temporary guest worker program. Look, there are companies that are unable to hire people working in agriculture, construction, hospitality, sometimes home health care. So let's have a worker program with tracking, legal protections, enforceable contracts. Give them a path to residency for proven workers who have no criminal record, steady employment, English proficiency. So I'm not an open borders guy, but I'm also not a anti-immigration guy. I would also invest in long-term assimilation programs, language and civics education, integration initiatives. I would modernize family-based immigration by giving priority to highly skilled relatives whose skills are required by U.S. companies that cannot fill those skills with local talent. I would have visas for entrepreneurs. I would have quotas on the number of visas by region so you could spread it out and it wouldn't be all concentrated in one area. And I would do a bunch of digitization. So these are examples of bipartisan immigration reform. But if all you do is talk about they're eating our dogs and eating our cats, you're not going to get anything done. You're going to come across as a racist. And who wants to vote with the racist? So all you guys who are oh yeah, he's owning the libs, it's yeah, well, you know what? To get anything done, you're going to need to get some lib votes. This piece of work. Okay, sorry. Let's see here. What's the next on my list? The Iran nuclear deal. So little background. There was a deal negotiated that would have prevented Iran from getting a nuclear weapon capability. And you guessed it, Donald Trump walked from that deal. And surprise, surprise, Iran is imminently going to have a nuclear weapon now. And we have no inspectors and we have no carrots nor sticks to stop it, thanks to this man. And so when the Iranians, if they use a nuclear weapon against anyone in the region, this guy's partly responsible.
The Iran deal is defective at its core. If we do nothing, we know exactly what will happen. In just a short period of time, the world's leading state sponsor of terror will be on the cusp of acquiring the world's most dangerous weapons. Therefore, I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
Donald Trump is granted a...
So, what was in that Iran nuclear deal? Iran agreed to reduce its enriched uranium stockpiles by 98% and cap the enrichment level to 3.67%, which is all you need for civilian but lower than weapons grade. They had agreed to reduce the number of centrifuges by 2/3 from 19,000 to 6,000. They had agreed to redesign its heavy water reactor to prevent it from producing weapons-grade plutonium. The International Atomic Energy Agency was granted enhanced access to Iran's nuclear facilities and its entire supply chain to ensure compliance. Continuous monitoring of key sites like Natanz and Fordow enrichment facilities for 25 years. In return, sanctions against Iran were lifted, and there was a snapback mechanism to quickly reimpose sanctions without requiring a new UN Security Council vote if they were found to violate any of those terms of those deals. And your boy, Donald J. Trump, blocked that. Reason number 8. There's a pattern with some of these reasons.
Of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on. We have no choice. We have no choice.
You know, when you ban an entire race, this is the same guy that says there are great people on both sides. You start seeing a pattern here.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
I don't even know what I need to say about that. You know, this is not about security. This is about fear-mongering. You know, imagine if he said, oh, I'm going to have a shutdown of all Chinese or Asians, blacks, Hispanics. I mean, that's what he did, basically. For a country that's built on freedom of religion, to then isolate one specific religion, like one of the old Abraham-based religions, the 3 old ones. I mean, if he banned Jews, like, come on. Like, this is the guy that you want back in the White House? Like, really? Okay, now let's, it doesn't end there, guys. We're at number 9. Number 9. Let's do it.
Today questioned why the United States would allow people from Haiti and Africa into the country. Describing those places using an expletive while suggesting people from Norway might be more acceptable. He reportedly made the comments during a White House meeting with a bipartisan group of senators. The White House tonight is not denying the president made the remarks. Now, we want you to know our report includes that expletive once so that you can hear the complete quote for yourself. And of course, it may not be appropriate for some of our younger viewers. NBC's Peter Alexander has details.
The president tonight apparently uncorking another astonishing statement, complaining to lawmakers in the Oval Office about protections for immigrants. Why do we want these people from, quote, all these shithole countries here? According to a Democratic aide familiar with the conversation, Mr. Trump was referring to African nations and Haiti before suggesting the U.S. should have more people from places like Norway, whose prime minister he met yesterday. A White House spokesman tonight not denying the president's words, but saying certain Washington politicians choose to fight for foreign countries. But President Trump will all...
my God. You guys see the pattern here? Banning Muslims, telling people marching for Confederate general statues that they're great people on both sides after they ran over a protester, counter-protester. Banning Muslims and now saying we need more people like from Norway. What's the difference between people from Norway and other people? Okay, and then last but certainly not least, he got out of the Paris Climate Agreement. It sent a message to the whole world that the U.S. was not interested in leading on climate change. One of the most existential challenges to the human species. Even MAGA man Elon Musk knows that. So whether you're a center-left independent or just someone that cares about the environment and your grandchildren's ability to breathe and drink water, this is not your guy. This is not your guy. But let's see what he says.
And I think I know more about the environment than most people. Can have clean coal, really clean coal. I don't think science knows. The environment than most people. Can have clean coal, really clean coal. I don't think science knows, actually. A windmill will kill many bald eagles. So Obama's talking about all of this with the global warming and that, and a lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay?
What do you think the world should be doing about climate change, and do you still harbor that skepticism?
I feel that the United States has tremendous wealth.
If we ignore that science and sort of put our head in the sand and think it's all about vegetation management, we're not going to succeed together protecting Californians.
Okay. It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
I think something's happening, something's changing, and it'll change back again. You'd have to show me the scientists because they have a very big political agenda. Our numbers are very, very good. Our environmental numbers, our water numbers, our numbers on air are tremendous. I'm a big believer in the environment. The number one environmental president since Teddy Roosevelt. Who would have thought? Trump is the great environmentalist. Do you hear that, Ed? Do you hear that? I'm an environmentalist. A lot of people don't understand that. I have done more environmental impact statements probably than anybody. More than anybody that's ever been president or vice president or anything even close to president. My administration is putting an end to the war on coal. Gonna have clean coal, really clean coal. We want the cleanest air. We want crystal clean water. We have the cleanest water. It's crystal clean, and I always say I want crystal clean water and air. Clean air, clean water. But if we're clean, but every other place on earth is dirty, that's not so good. New Green Deal, or whatever the hell they call it. Green New Deal. The Green New Deal, right? Green New Deal. I encourage it. I think it's really something that they should promote. It sounds like a high school term paper that got a low mark.
Greta Thunberg,
Oh, that's very nice.
who you had said needs to work on her anger. She had some very harsh words.
I didn't
about
say anger. I said anger
anger
management.
management. Yes, sir. You talk about clean
How
air.
old is she?
She's 17 now.
Oh.
Yes.
That's good.
But what is your response to
She
her?
beat me out on Time Magazine.
But did you hear from?
Thank you very much. No planes, no energy. When the wind stops blowing, that's the end of your electric. Let's hurry up. Darling, is the wind blowing today? I'd like...
I don't think he understands how renewable energy works. Like, that's like saying, oh, when the sun's down, you have to turn off all of your appliances. You can generate the energy when the wind's blowing or when the sun's shining. And then you can store that energy in things called batteries. And then you can turn on your TV at night. This is possible in 2024.
To watch television, darling. I'm not going to lose that wealth. I'm not going to lose it on dreams, on windmills, which, frankly, aren't working too well. And they say the noise causes cancer. You tell me that one, okay? You know, the thing makes it so... They sort of like wind, even though it kills all the birds. You want to see a bird cemetery? Go under a windmill sometime. And of course, it's like a graveyard for birds. If you love birds, you'd never want to walk under a windmill because it's a very sad, sad sight. It's like a cemetery. We put a little statue for the poor birds. We'll have an economy based on wind. I never understood wind. You know, I know windmills very much. I've studied it better than anybody. I know it's very expensive.
All right. So let me wrap up with your 10 reasons in case you joined late. Okay, reason number 1. The number 1 reason why you should not vote for Donald Trump in November is he tried to overturn his own election that he lost. He encouraged his supporters to violently interrupt a official government certification of the results. And as a reminder, for all you states' rights people, that's the federal government trying to tell the states, yeah, we don't like your certified results. Go back. Go back. Give us some alternative electors. So that's number 1. I don't know why I need to give you more than that reason, but okay, maybe because the title of this video is 10 reasons, but frankly, that should be enough. Number 2, over appointing judges that he knew would overturn a woman's right to have a freaking abortion. Nobody wants to have an abortion, but if they choose to get one, that's their business. Just stay out of their business. As Tim Walz says, mind your damn business. Mind your own damn business. I agree with him. None of my business. Furthermore, if you're not ready to have that baby and you're not going to take care of it, then don't complete the pregnancy. That is not cool, because then that individual becomes everyone's responsibility. Number 3, blocking the first bipartisan Republican written border security deal we've had in years, while at the same time saying that this is a crisis. And your rationale is it didn't go far enough. It's really? If your house is on fire and the fire department sends 1 fire engine, you're going to turn it back because you're no, I need 2. Get out of here, man. Come on, man. This guy. Number 4, denial and completely chaotic management of a national pandemic. Frankly, it was a global pandemic, which resulted in over 1.5 million excess deaths, meaning there were 1.5 million more people who died in America in the 2 years of the pandemic than had died in previous years. Now, it wasn't just a flu. Now people say, well, but now COVID's not a big deal. It is still a big deal, but it's less lethal. And that's what happens if you ask scientists about what happens with pandemics. It does go through that phase. But when it was at its worst, Trump was completely lost. He was against vaccines, but he brags about helping develop the vaccine. And then he says you don't need the vaccine. All you need is bleach, but then secretly gets his family vaccinated. Come on, man. It's like his abortion stance. He's against abortions, but he's on his 3rd marriage and pays off adult film stars and is found liable for sexual assault. If anybody should be pro-choice, he should know something about that. Number 5, there were fine people on both sides. A white nationalist rally where a protester was killed, okay? his first answer is there were fine people on both sides. You don't need to do that. If your neighbor came over and beat the crap out of your other neighbor, and then someone said, my God, what happened? That first neighbor just came over and beat the crap out of them. My first answer isn't, well, there's fine people in both of those families. I would say, yeah, that's bull. They should not have come over and beat the crap out of them. All right. Number 6, his crazy claims about immigrants eating your pets. Not because it isn't a real issue. It isn't a real issue. But because he's made this topic so toxic and racist that it makes it harder to do anything reasonable on immigration reform, because he's pushing away the moderates and independents. What reasonable person wants to side with the 80-year-old man screaming about they're coming for your pets, they're eating your dogs, they're eating your cats, they're coming for your animals? Number 7, for someone who says he cares so much about the Middle East, we had a deal to block Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, and then he walked away from it, and now look who is causing all kinds of trouble in the Middle East. Iran. Number 8, announcing a ban on Muslims. And he did that when he was running for office. I don't think there's ever been a ban on a people of a certain religious faith. Of all places, a place where Puritans came here to seek a safe place to practice their religion. Huguenots came from France to this country to seek a safe place to practice their religion. He then bans one religion? Number 9, complaining that we don't have enough immigration from countries like Norway, and we have to have them from quote-unquote shithole countries. As a reminder to all of you who remember from American history class, if you have some Italian relatives, Irish relatives, do you know what the Anglos used to call your countries? That wasn't that long ago. No Irish need apply. No WAPs. It just, history just keeps repeating itself. So let's call it what it is. That's racist. There's a lot of Elon Musk is an immigrant. Come on. There's plenty of immigrants who have made this country what it is. And then number 10, being completely oblivious to climate change and pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement and talking about clean coal as a solution and drill baby drill. So those are your 10 reasons, guys. 10 freaking reasons. 10 of them. I don't know why I needed to give you 10, and we're at 1 hour and 38 minutes. So listen, nerds, if you love democracy and you don't want drama and you love America, you cannot vote for Donald Trump. I didn't even mention number 11. You want to know number 11? He is too damn old. He is not there. This is not a young man's job. So for all of you MAGA folks who are saying Joe Biden's too old, it's like, bruh, it's time to look at your boy. Your boyo is going to be 82 by the time he ends his second term if he were reelected. Who here would feel comfortable with 82-year-old Trump in the Situation Room deciding what to do about Russia or North Korea or China or Iran. And let's make believe that the leaders of those countries compliment him and maybe talk about how big his crowd sizes are. Is this the guy you want calling the shots? So 10 reasons for you. This isn't even close. You know, you could argue before, when it was Trump versus Biden, got it. Double haters. I was one of them. But we don't have to worry about that anymore. It's not going to be Biden. So it's Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Are they my top choice? No. I would have liked to have seen an open primary much earlier. I'm not thrilled about how the Democratic Party handled this primary process. But at the end of the day, the Democratic Party didn't try and overturn an election when Hillary lost. They didn't raid the Capitol. They didn't put out 60 BS lawsuits. They didn't have Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell talking about Venezuela and Dominion and Smartmatic and all this pillow guy BS. So I am not here to tell you that Kamala Harris is perfect. And by the way, when was the last perfect candidate you saw? Like the closest, strongest candidate was probably Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Okay? You're not going to get another Obama and Clinton. Bill Clinton. So we'll take the Harris and Walz, but we definitely don't want Trump. Oh, and by the way, I give you reason 12. Do you know that Trump's, he knows the best people, his selection for vice president, J.D. Vance, was asked if you were in Mike Pence's shoes and on January 6th, the states had brought their certified results and it was time for the federal arm of the government to certify the final outcome of the election. Would you have tried to overturn the state's results? The state's results that were signed by the governors of all 50 states, approved by each state's legislature. Would you have accepted it? He said no. He said, I would have told them to come back with an alternate slate of electors. What? When the hell did the vice president get to decide that they didn't like the results and, come back with a different one? Like, go find me 10,000 votes. Like, that is not American. I don't care how many flags you have behind you when you give a speech. You failed the ultimate test, which is to honor the U.S. Constitution. And then you convinced nearly half the country that this election was stolen. And as you can see from the live chat, there's plenty of people who still believe that. I don't blame those people. I blame Donald J. Trump. He should have conceded like a man. You lost. Oh, reason 13 why you cannot vote for Trump is we need Trump to have a decisive loss in November, because when he loses, he's not going to concede and he's going to try to get his people all riled up again. And he's going to tell them to fight like hell and they're not going to have a country if they don't fight. They need to take their country back, blah, blah, blah. So please, dear God, register to vote and vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and we will all sleep better the next day, and we won't have to worry about what crazy stuff Donald J. Trump is doing. He might still be popping off from Mar-a-Lago, whatever. He'll say it was stolen, it was rigged. The latest is like, the debate, he says he won 92-8. What poll says that he won 92-8? Anybody who watched that debate knows that he lost badly. And then he's like, Kamala had the questions. Oh, really? You were surprised that they asked you what your healthcare plan was? Like, what genius was preparing you for your debates? Tulsi Gabbard didn't help you prepare for the fact that you're going to be asked about things that you've said? Come on, man. There weren't any surprise questions. What do you think we should do about foreign policy? What do you think we should do about the economy? What do you think we should do about healthcare? Come on, man. This is not like some surprise tests. This is like taking a standardized test. There's going to be a math section. There's going to be a verbal section. Okay? There's going to be reading comp. There's going to be freaking geometry. This is not a surprise. If you can't handle that, then you shouldn't get in the job. You're not ready for that. Oh my God, I'm getting pissed. Okay, well, I'm gonna wrap up because I'm getting a little fired up. I think my Trump derangement syndrome is really like, this is what your guy brings out in people. By the way, like, he makes 55% of the country scream on a Friday night. Well, it is Friday the 13th. On a Friday night. Till they lose their voice. It's your guy. Get him the hell out of there. Let's go. All right, nerds. If you enjoyed this stream and you want to share it with some pro-Harris fans, or maybe you have some members of your family who are like, I don't know, Trump versus Harris, send them this video. Like and share and comment below if I missed any other reasons. I think I got most of the big reasons, but hopefully those 10 captured the most important ones. All right, my friends, my nerds, have a great weekend. See you next time. Bye, nerds. Oh, email summary of this stream. If you're like, bro, that was a 2-hour stream, I can't watch the whole thing. All of my streams, I send an email summary. Just go to nerdsforhumanity.substack.com and you can get an email where I summarize the whole stream, and I've got more coming. Bye, nerds. Yes, that's so true. It is at 100. Frick this guy, man. Frick this guy. Don't want him. No bueno